Hello, my wolf pack. Charlie Black 20 back again. Today, I'm going to be doing my review slash reaction to the new Sword Art Online Progressive movie, Scherzo of a Dark Night. I'm going to start with all the positives, and then I'm going to get into the negatives about the movie. So, right into it. Positives. Absolutely gorgeous. Like the animation, like I felt I was back in SAO. I felt I was in the game. The music, the sound effects of gaming, like there was almost nothing wrong at all with the animation, with the music, soundtrack. It had everything it needed. Characters, they did extremely well for the movie, including Mito from the original movie, and bringing her back in a way that shows that her arc could be over or could not be over. It could go either way. It shows us how Kirito is acting as the lightning rod of hatred for the old, for the new players, while sparing the rest of the former beta testers. It also gets into the developing friendship, partnership, romance between Asuna and Kirito in a very, very well-defined way that you don't necessarily need to read the book to see the relationship growing and improving and also being very funny. So the movie does all that stuff extremely well. It highlights the portions of the light novel of the plot that are most essential to the Sword Art Online franchise in terms of Aincrad and the underlying tensions and politics and overall concept of how these players are advancing in this game. So I think the movie does a good job of highlighting those without straying too far from the basic concept of the light novel. Now, the dub was better as well compared to the sub for me. I admit I'm biased because I saw the dub first, and I really love Bryce Papenbrook as Kirito, and Jeremy Lee does an excellent job as Asuna, like excellent. But now, the negatives. I am a light novel original person. I much prefer the light novel in terms of how much more story you get, in terms of how much more details. For example, there are at least, there are things from the books, all the other novels, that they cannot include in this, because there's a storyline that is called the Elf War Quest. They can't include it in this movie because there's really not that much in the light novel. It's only touched upon. But you also lose characters from like the second half of the original Progressive light novel, the original one. The first one, you lose floor 2, where you get introduced to at least one character, whose name was Nezha. He's very important to the second floor. He becomes fairly important to the fifth floor. Basically, he gets replaced by Mito in that sense. We also get the characters of Litan and Shivata. They are from opposing guilds. You got Shivata from the DKB, and you've got Litan from the ALS. And right now, their two guilds are feuding because of their guilds are basically rivals, and the two leaders, Kibao for ALS, Lind for DKB, consider themselves the successors of Diavel from the first raid, who was killed. But they both have very differing philosophies on how to clear the game. And so, because they're in opposing guilds, Litan and Shivata, we learn basically at the end of the movie, in a very brief visual scene, that Litan and Shivata are a couple. But in the book, we get way more of Litan's backstory. We basically learn that she is this tank player who has the best armor in all of Aincrad, steel, because she was able to take advantage of a glitch in the game where this iron ore deposit was just kept producing more and more iron ore for like half an hour before it was finally fixed by presumably Akihiko Kaiba. So she was able to get the best armor she could get forged by a up-and-coming female blacksmith who is clearly Lisbeth. So she was scouted by the ALS, joined their guild, tried to plan this countdown New Year's party with ALS and met Shivata that way, and they started talking and became close. We don't learn any of that backstory in the movie, which I understand why it wasn't included. It wasn't absolutely needed, but it is sad they did not, because it was very interesting. And we also don't get to see two other characters. Hafner, who is a sub-leader of the DKB who helps Shivata. He basically is the guy who believes that it doesn't matter how we clear this game as long as we clear it. We cannot allow the two guilds to fight each other over this guild flag that is a main center of why Kirito wants to beat the boss before anyone else. Keep it out of the hands of both guilds. And then you got Okotan, I believe is how it's pronounced. He's from ALS. He was the one who brought Litten into the ALS. He's the oldest, probably around 30. And he, in the end, he actually gets the guild flag as the drop. And at first he doesn't say anything about it. He's trying to hide it. But eventually he comes clean, saying he just lost sight of the goal for a moment. He wanted to use it to bargain with the DKB, but he realized it wasn't going to happen. So he hands it over to Kirito. But they are not exactly the most important. They are probably, of the group that Kirito and Asuna go in with, they are probably the least important. So I understand why they kept them out, but it was sad that we didn't get more characters. Especially as somebody who loves character development. And the other negative for me, they kept everything very well done as far as plot, but one of the things that kind of annoyed me as a light novel reader was when Asuna shoves Shivata out of the way of the boss and gets caught in his mouth where it's crushing her. They have Mito be the one to try and save her and hold back the mouth from crushing her, like the trash compactors in Star Wars. In the book, it's Shivata who gets caught as one of the tanks, and his armor's holding it back for a while, but eventually it's just going to crack and break, and he's going to get killed. Litten jumps into the mouth to stop the crushing effect on Shivata because she has the best armor. She's putting herself completely at risk and getting crunched. But she says the reason she's doing it is because that's her job as a tank. She must do her job. So the fact that it's Asuna who gets caught, I understand why they went that way. It's Asuna's story. This is all Asuna's point of view in this movie, just like the original. You understand where this is going. And Mito saving her in that way and helping is... I understand why they did it for the movie, and they did a good job. As a light novel reader, again, I get annoyed, but they did a good job for the movie. And then we have, I think the best scene in the entire movie wasn't the boss fight. It wasn't the mock duel between Argo and Asuna in their swimsuits. It was actually when Asuna and Kirito are confronting the Laughing Coffin group, the two guys from Laughing Coffin, Morte and probably Joe. And then she basically on her own figures out a plan to get back her sword that has basically been claimed by the guy Joe. She uses his own thrown away wad of paper that she found, throws it out, gets a sly shrew man to scare the guy as he is grabbing the paper, and then she lets out a gigantic scream, makes him drop the sword. The shrew man grabs the sword because he has a robbing effect, and then she kills the shrew man, gets her sword back, and re-equips it, all within like 10 seconds at most. And now the odds are even, and it was a fantastic scene. Like, the entire Laughing Coffin scene with Asuna, I think that was the best scene for me as a somebody who loves the anime and the books. Now, I'll say this. I am disappointed we did not get to see Neza from Floor 2, Hafner and Okotan, because they are side characters. They are not extremely important. We're probably not going to see Okotan again. We probably won't see Hafner. And Neza, he might jump here and there, but we're probably not going to see him again. But they were important for the boss battle in the book. It's just a very good movie. So those are, I'm going to give a very brief summary of the movie, which is that Asuna and Kirito and the assault group defeat the 4th floor boss. Argo helps them do that. And then we learn about relic hunting in the 5th floor, which is where you literally go searching for relics in both the town and the safe zone that's underneath that's in the catacombs underneath the town. And then we also learn that Asuna is afraid of ghosts, which is why she struggles to fight the astral monsters on the 5th floor. So that leads her to falling into the trap. That sends her into the dungeon, causes her to lose her rapier. She tries to get it back by luring out a bunch of shroomen by throwing an item into the water and having them come for it. And she kills them over and over again but can't find the rapier. And that's how she finds the wad of paper, which has been thrown away because apparently there's a writing in SAO, but it takes skill. And the paper was messed up, so she goes to where that is. And that's how she finds the Laughing Coffin guys. One of them is Joe. The other is Morte, who they very, very briefly in the movie show that he had tried to PK duel Kirito a few floors down. And so he's also a former beta tester as well. He and Kirito have a very antagonistic relationship. In fact, very, very close to enemies, I'd say. Especially how they're going about things. And then for the movie, one thing that is very different from the light novel. The plan to attack the boss by themselves with only a small group. Kirito and Asuna, Agil and the Bro Squad, Argo, Litten, Shivata, Hafner, Okotan. That's 12 people. Not a lot. Sorry. So, they're doing this completely behind the backs of both the ALS and DKB leaders in the book. They're doing this to avoid any confrontations between the two guilds, because the guild flag that will drop from the boss can only be used for one guild. It cannot be exchanged, it cannot be changed, and only one flag drops. What the flag will do is if it's held upright in the floor by a guild member, all the guild members within the radius of that flag for unlimited time as long as the flag is up will receive buffs. Increased strength, increased agility, increased everything. That would cause a huge morale drop for the rival guild and a huge boost of morale for the other guild that has the flag. So one of the guilds would most likely be destroyed in that process and would slow the progress in the game that has been super quick up till now because of the rivalry between the two guilds. In the book, as I said before, neither of the two leaders know about this. It's supposed to be that Kibao and his top guild members attack the boss during the party while the DKB is stuck doing the party. But in the movie, Kirito actually brings Kibao in to talk to him, and Kibao is eventually forced to admit that, yeah, that's what we're going to do. We got a juicy piece of intel. We could not let this happen. We could not risk the DKB getting their hands on it. And Kibao eventually, because he's so rough-mannered and he doesn't particularly like Kirito, but he knows that this is a very bad idea for the guild to do this to the DKB because it's going to ruin their progress in the game. It's going to cause almost a war between the guilds. And he doesn't want that to happen. He wants to get out of this game. So he, in the movie, basically tells Kirito all the plan of the ALS group, that they're going to leave at 6 p.m. sharp during the party and go tackle the boss. And if he's delayed for some reason, then if Kirito and his group beat the boss, then it's no chip off his shoulder. And when Kibao arrives, they have a scene where it's almost exactly as it was in the book. Kibao in the movie pretends he's surprised that Kirito has gotten to the boss. Whereas in the book, he's definitely surprised, although in both, he's very grateful, it appears, in the end. And there's a scene where Joe, he's wearing a mask, so we can't see his face, but he's basically saying, Kibao, we don't need to listen to this guy. We don't need to listen to his terms. We can just take the flag. And Kibao reacts in the exact same way in the book and the movie, where he grabs Joe by like his throat or his collar and says, we're not a bunch of thugs and bandits and criminals, that this isn't how we do things. We are players. We are the ALS. Remember what we stand for, and don't let me hear that crap again. Which I thought, yes, I'm so glad they included that. It shows that Kibao is a strong leader who has his principles. Like, he didn't want to do this raid, but he had to. Otherwise, his own guild was going to break apart. So I love that for the movie in terms of giving Kibao more leverage in this moment. But again, in the books, neither guild knew as far as their leadership. Now, I know that was a lot to go into. Oh, and there was the part where Asuna basically cries for Kirito, which, very, very touching moment. It's almost exactly the same in the book, except for one thing that I wanted to see and did not. Kirito actually kind of breaks down himself when she's giving him praise, rubbing him on his head, caressing him. He actually does start to cry a little in the book, like almost sobbing in a way, because there is a lot of tension and a lot of, it's hard to say, a lot of pent-up emotion in Kirito that he's been holding back. And she's allowing him a release in that moment, which I think he definitely needed. And the last part of the movie, which was also the last part of the book, is a little different. In the book, Kirito is confronted by a POH, Laughing Coffin, with the dagger, by himself as he's going down. And it's the exact same scene as in the movie. He threatens to stab Kirito with this knife that has poison. Kirito says, no, we're in the safe zone. Guy says, no, we're not. I know we're not. And then Kirito pretends to go along with it, steps back, jumps back, gets the safe zone code, and tries to go after the guy, but he uses the smoke bomb and gets away. In the movie, it's Asuna and Kirito both who are confronted by him, and Asuna figures out that the guy is bluffing, and she's also got this necklace that she got from Mito after their duel that actually has a resistance to poison. So, either way, if the guy wasn't bluffing, she had this poison resistance added to her that she could use. And she and Kirito worked perfectly together to try to go after this guy. It's only his amazing speed and the darkness that allows him to escape. Otherwise, they probably would have caught him right then and there. But that scene, very good. Second best for Asuna in terms of the movie goes. But absolutely good. And so, I think that's it for now. Again, I think the movie for me was better dubbed. Again, very biased. But visuals, music, soundtrack, basic storyline, very, very well done. They did it very well. In terms of comparing it to the light novel, a little disappointed. But if, and I emphasize if, an anime comes out where they show us other floors, and we get to see the characters in different ways, like Neza, Hafner, Okotan, and the rest of the squads that were fighting in SAO, I will be very happy with that. But that is my review of Scherzo of a Dark Night, SAO Progressive 2. So take care, my wolf pack. See you later.